Welcome to the GEMS Report, brought to you by Clarion Events, Fire and Rescue Group, and the Journal of Emergency Medical Services. My name is Ted Lee, and I'm the editor-in-chief of GEMS. Along with Jeff Frankel, our managing editor, we will be bringing you industry leaders to talk about hot news, topics, and various things impacting pre-hospital medicine. Today, we have a very special guest all the way from Indianapolis EMS, Lieutenant Shane Hardwick, community paramedic and tactical paramedic for their group. Welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So why don't we kick off and let the group know a little bit about you. Give us some of your background, where you're coming from, and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, so I started in EMS 32 years ago, and I've loved every minute of it. It's been a very rewarding job for me. Served a lot of roles. Was on the street for about the first 18 or 20 years of my career. Moved over to a kind of an operations position within one of the local fire departments. Was then promoted to EMS chief for a small stint, about a year or so, and then came back to Indianapolis EMS and started doing community paramedicine. And I try to speak every year on some of the work we do within community paramedicine. I've spent 8.5 years in a police car, a marked police car, doing district work, but doing it through the eyes of community paramedicine. And I could speak for hours about how your social determinants of health affect more than just your longevity and well-being. It affects other behaviors. And to step really quickly on my soapbox, there's a reason that it seems that a lot of your high volume EMS is in the same area, that there's a lot of high volume law enforcement activity. So that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. For a little over 20, I've been doing SWAT medic as well with the city of Indianapolis, and fantastic organization with IMPD, and been the training coordinator for the last 8 years or so, and then just got promoted this week to lieutenant. So I'll kind of have several things that I'll be overseeing within tactical medicine, and then also in the community paramedic world. So that brings me up to today.
Congratulations on your new promotion.
I'm very excited. Thank you.
And of course, thank you for your years of dedicated service. So leading on the tactical side or the SWAT medic side, why don't you give us kind of a brief intro to what is tactical medicine? I mean, because a lot of people hear about this, especially young paramedics when they're in their school, and they're like, oh, this is awesome, this is cool, I want to know more, or this is what I want to do, without really knowing kind of what they're getting into or what it really entails.
Sure. Yeah. So tactical medicine is a lot of things, and it's a lot of things that I think someone from the outside thinks it's going to be different than what it really is. Kind of the very high level thing is you're kind of just this person that's kind of in the cast of characters inside of a SWAT operation. Not necessarily a wallflower, but not doing a whole lot from an operational standpoint, right up until the moment you become the most watched person on that scene. So think of an NFL game, and like, we're kind of the kicker, right? We're kind of over milling around by the water cooler, but when you get called up, the entire stadium is watching you. And so that's kind of a very high level, very wide brushstrokes of what it involves. Tactical medicine, it's interesting because there's a lot of people within our selection process. We probably have, once you're even selected, I would say historically, we still have about a 50% attrition rate. And we always tell our candidates, like, we're done with the selection part. We've picked you. Moving forward, anything that we do is going to be to better you and to equip you to be successful. And especially with our team, I think a lot of people don't realize, even though you tell them time and time again, hey, we're a busy team. We're doing 500 ops a year. That really cuts into your personal time, and so there needs to be a certain level of dedication. So what we found is a lot of folks, they either are overwhelmed with the amount of operations that we're doing and the actual time commitment. And so that actually kind of causes a little bit of turnover. Once you make that year, and we've selected and we've brought you through, the turnover is very, very low. It's just, it takes a different type of mentality almost to function at an op tempo like that for sustained periods of time. But we've got a really good team. We've got a really good dynamic. I don't know how the rest of the world functions. You know, we pretty much have our little section of the world, and people come and see how we do things. But you're not going to find a whole lot of places that functions at such a high level for us. So getting a little deeper into what is tactical medicine. Tactical medicine, especially today, like we're talking 2024, in today's world, tactical medicine is more or less an insurance policy. And I mean that in every sense of the word, where you look at some of the things that are going on with policing and some of the narratives that are out there and some of the things that genuinely do happen. To have a paramedic right there to render care within sometimes seconds of injury, and you're providing good, hot zone medicine, which transitions into more general ALS care, and then it goes even further with our expanded protocols. We're bringing whole blood to the scene. We're bringing paralytics. We're bringing all this expanded scope stuff to the scene. People that would not have made it otherwise are living to get to the hospital, to get to that surgeon. And you can't say that it wasn't because of the efforts and the work done by some of these tactical paramedicine. So I would say that we are a lot of things, but one of the big things that we are is we're kind of that insurance policy, we're that safety blanket for not only law enforcement, right? We're there for citizens, we're there for hostage, we're there for suspect. We actually spend a decent amount of time in training talking about we have to triage the sickest of the sick. So we train for, if the suspect has done something horrible and they're the worst injured, we still have to provide care to that person. We're not judge, jury, or executioner. We have to do our job, and we spend a lot of time, talent, treasure working towards that unbiased, excellent care being provided to anyone that needs it in that hot zone, in that moment of injury.
So you mentioned that there's a lot of different ways to do this, and the way that you guys do it is unique to you. Are you guys assigned as part of Indianapolis EMS to law enforcement, or is there some type of agreement where you are part of that organization given the event?
So with Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Metro team, so we just actually picked up 2 other agencies we're now serving. But with Indy Metro, which is what we can, speak intelligently on because we've been doing it for 25 years, there are medics from the Indianapolis Fire Department and there's medics from the Indianapolis Police Department. And you're still an IFD or an IEMS employee, but you are assigned as an asset to SWAT operations. We have a full, IEMS has a full-time SWAT paramedic that all he does is handle tactical incidents, and the rest of us we kind of fill in. So we've got one fly car position that is TAC shift hours, non-transporting ALS medic that supports some of the BLS responses in the area. We just stood it up 2 months ago, where if it is a SWAT incident, it's a SWAT medic in this vehicle. And if it is a SWAT incident, they mark out and they go straight to the scene until help arrives, and then they can mark back in, or depending on what the operation is, can be there to stand by. And we're slowly going to try to massage in some of those advanced protocols. So we have right now, myself or our full-time QRF SWAT medic carry the blood cooler during the day shift hours, but now we can expand those hours from one of us are picking up first thing in the morning, and then that blood is forward deployed in the system until about 9-10 o'clock at night. So we want to expand that coverage with that. So we're going to kind of bake it into the program with the what we call the EMS 95 position, as hopefully carrying some more of those expanded medicines and abilities. So, and then on top of that, it's just guys coming in that are on call or available.
All right. So if you have somebody that's interested in getting into this, and you having your background, kind of looking back at the way that you started, what kind of suggestions would you have or tips on, hey, this is something I may be interested in. What can I do?
How to set up the program or how to get into tactical medicine?
No, how to get into it for the line person that might be interested.
Sure. Yeah. So we always say the medicine's easy, right? You can't, it's a two-parter, right? You have to be physically fit to do the job. A lot of people will wait until about 3 weeks before we do a physical fitness evaluation to start running. And the work that we do and the teams that we work with, these guys are all, I mean, they're fit guys, and they take their fitness very seriously. So we want to mirror that, and for so many reasons. So the first thing is, if you're looking to get into it, don't wait until the assessment, is posted. Start working out, start running, start getting that cardio up to where it needs to be well before you get to the selection and assessment process, because the expectations are going to be there well after you get selected and you're brought on. It's a reoccurring thing, at least for us every year. We're running and we do an annual physical fitness every year, and if we don't pass it, then we're off the team. So physical fitness is one, and this is the intangible stuff that we really, it's very difficult to kind of put a bow around, but it's team ability. Like, how do you function within a team? We've went as far as, like, how do we assess these intangibles? We had a guy by the name of Ryan Decker, who used to be the Colts player development coach for the Indianapolis Colts. And before he had that job, he ran the Special Forces selection schoolhouse. And so, we even brought him in and said, how do we test for these intangibles? How do we test for character and integrity and dependability? Like, all of these things that that they're just really hard to assess in an interview. And we took some pointers from him. Obviously, they're in the stratosphere of the things they do for their assessment and selection. Right. But we were able to take a couple pearls from that. And one of the things that we do is if we have somebody that's going through our assessment process, is we'll reach out to their supervisors. We'll reach out to the people that work in the district with them. Are they showing up? Are they showing up for shift change right at the buzzer? Are they arriving early? How does the truck look in the morning when they do the handoff? Are they keeping their stuff clean? All of those little things really tie into. It's weird how it's uncanny how accurate we are on. Okay, we got a good feeling about this person, or not so sure about that person, and those things always kind of show themselves throughout the year. But team ability and being able to function within that team and having that kind of personality really is a bigger deal than I think a lot of people realize. You can't just take a talented paramedic off the street, wrap him in Kevlar, and put him in all black and expect them to thrive within a tactical team. You just can't. There's a lot of medics out there that's like they excel on the really bad stuff, right? Like break glass in case of emergency, but otherwise keep them out of the public. Those are not the people they could be the most gifted paramedic in the world, but those are not the people that are going to do well within a SWAT team.
Yeah. So if your organization doesn't have a direct relationship like yours, like Indianapolis does, how would somebody get information or kind of find, something going on in their area that there might be a need for this, or they might be looking for it other than a posting or something?
So you're saying, okay, let me Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Can you?
if I'm on the street, I'm with an EMS service, but my service doesn't have a direct relationship with local law enforcement or the sheriff's office or state. Um, but I'm interested in this. How would I go about finding if there are teams like this around that just might be associated with somebody else, but it's not my organization that has the relationship?
Sure. It's a big ask. It really is. And I'll tell you, I'll tell you that like you really, I think a lot of people kind of work it backwards, but they try to sell it to their EMS agency first, and then they try to sell it to the police department, which this kind of stuff sells itself. But I think that there needs to be it needs to be driven from the law enforcement side, because teams that don't have it, I don't think they realize um, what they don't have. And I'll tell you, so the ink isn't even dry on the MOUs yet, so I won't name names, but we've just started serving with a large state team and a federal team as well. And the more we get our heads around, all we've done is urban tactical medicine for the last 25 years. And so now, I mean, we spent all day yesterday in the Hoosier National Forest landing helicopters and dragging people out of woods with the Department of Natural Resources, and they brought side-by-sides and four-wheelers and skeds and you name it. And this all kind of ties into the further out these teams are, the higher that medical threat level goes up. We're used to briefing ops and saying, okay, there's a level 1 trauma center within 15 minutes in any direction within the city. But now you're talking an hour 40 by ground. If the weather is good, you still got to factor in aeromedical and all that stuff. So I would say, even if it's a small agency, the further out you go, the more rural you are, the less your capabilities are, the higher the threat. So, it doesn't need to be big city. It really is. There's a huge need outside of the metro area. I remember we were involved with a guy that was 2 hours from the closest trauma center, and was barricaded. And I think he shot over 2,000 rounds out at officers. And you start debriefing some of the officers that went out there, and there was no real like medical plan. They had an ambulance stage, but there was no comms. They had no idea if it was ALS or BLS. Was there a helicopter on standby? Like, none of that stuff played out. So that's what we're trying to tease out a little bit. So I would say that it needs to come from law enforcement, and the real cost comes from the EMS agency. So you have to have that buy-in as well. Our administration, I think what sets us apart from good to great, we have very talented, very dedicated paramedics. We have some of the most well-trained professional officers that we work with. That makes us a really good team. What I think sets us up a little higher is that our administration is 100% bought in, not just EMS, not just fire, but law enforcement as well. And they show that very often, that they believe in our mission and they know the value of what we do. We have unrestricted access to our education department. If we need training adjuncts, if we need role players, if those role players need to be moulaged, we have a very robust training division within Indianapolis EMS. Even our logistics guys, they understand that we are a square peg, and they don't try to put us into a round hole when it comes to equipment or our needs. I've gotten phone calls before where it's like, hey, you requested this piece of equipment. We've done some research, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but we think we found you a better product. And here's why. So there is an associated cost with all of that. So if you get the buy-in from the police department, say, hey, this is a need, then it becomes something where it's like the EMS agency is going to eat a lot of that cost. And so that's where you start having a lot of discussions with MOUs and who's going to provide what. Law enforcement should provide the PPE, i.e. the Kevlar, your plates, gas mask. I would go as far as to say firearms and vehicles. That's a big cost for the police agency, but at the same time, look at your manpower costs. look at what, the EMS is gonna, or fire is going to pay out in overtime and medical equipment. But the two need to get together along with decision makers within that municipality to say, this is really important. Like this is something that we need to put some resources towards. So it's a long drawn out conversation. We'll talk about the symposium in a second, hopefully.
Yes.
But we actually do a class that our full-time QRF medic is doing a class on, where did we start and where are we now? And it's a really good presentation on kind of the step-by-step process of how to put a team together and make it successful.
Right. Well, and that's always the next question, from a line person or, from an organization, how do you get to the point of, we're interested in this, how do we move to the next one? From a line person's standpoint, are there classes that people can take? Because of course, a lot of paramedic programs will touch on this, but you can't spend, an exorbitant amount of time on this topic when you're trying to teach everything else and everybody's just, starting in the business. So what kind of opportunities are there for additional education or training?
Well, it's funny you say that. So if I can, I'll kind of touch on our symposium a little bit.
Yes, natural segue. Yes.
Yeah. So we started looking at. So again, we have unrestricted access to every division within our agency, and we have other people that I think some of it's the cool factor of like, hey, the IMPD SWAT medics want to come train with us, like, and folks will sign on by, sometimes the dozens to be a part of it, which is really cool. So we're living in Camelot in the tactical medicine world, I think here in Indy, because we have our docs, we have, all this stuff. So about 2017, we started looking at, and it was after one particular operation. Could tell you what the op was, but myself and Bruce, the full-time medic, we were talking. It's like, we feel like we have it dialed in. Like we have a lot of resources at our disposal. We've got a fairly good head on our shoulders, and we get a whole heck of a lot of reps when it comes to real world operations. But what are we missing? We don't want to rest on our laurels. We don't want to just, well, we're the best, like we're awesome. So we started looking and saying, okay, what does the rest of public safety have to offer? Like what can we learn from other organizations to say, hey, we're going to now take, we're going to, improve standards and add capabilities. What do we do next? And so we had some money to kind of say, well, we can travel if we need to. And what we found was that there's a lot of, alphabet classes and things that you can take. A lot of places will offer TCCC, TECC, and they're great programs, but we were beyond that. We were beyond. We're getting those reps, and we're getting involved in certain incidents and rendering patient care in the hot zone on a fairly consistent basis. So what else is out there? So then then you kind of get into some of these really cool, edgy looking websites, and you start reading through the content, and well, we don't need to be sleep deprived. We don't need to try to start IVs with tennis balls duct taped to our hands. And you dig a little further, and you realize that, and it's nothing to take away from small town agencies, but the agency's doing 4 and 5 ops a year. We're doing 400 and 500. So statistically, the instructors that we would go travel to hear talk is probably reading it from a book and doesn't really have that real world experience of what they're training. A lot of good stuff coming out of the military, unfortunately, because of the Middle East. But those classes are kind of far and few in between, to get some really, high speed, medics coming out of the military training. So it really, nothing really fit the bill for us. So we kind of changed our mindset and said, okay, instead of seeing what the rest of the world has to offer us, like what can we offer to the rest of the public safety world into this is what we found works, and this is how we go about things. And so that's how the TACMed Symposium was born, was bringing in not just people from Indianapolis, but other places that have tacit knowledge of what they're speaking on, and doing some really good presentations. I'm a tangible learner. I need to touch, feel, smell, but also I'm that guy that's asking those weird questions that only people that have experienced the topic can speak intelligently on. Like, what were your comms problems? How did you deal with multiple patients, and the sprinkler heads were going off, and it's raining down on all of your casualties. How did you manage that? Like, how did you deal with, were there any PTSD afterwards? So asking those questions that are a little bit more deep in the weeds is the way we want to present our show. We're not going to teach in theory. We're going to teach in real world. We've done this. We've seen this. And so we started in 2019, had a really good turnout. 2020 happened because we were initially going to do it every year. And Ted, I think planning a conference will take years off your life.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing I lose sleep over is when this thing starts coming around, and I literally, like, I'm exhausted because it's just so many different things that could happen or go wrong. So we decided to do every other year. Then Delta variant happened, so that it kind of put us on even years. So now, we try to do this training every other year. We get a little bit of funding out of it, so we can have a family. We try to invite family and spouses to have like a cookout every year to kind of hang out, and everybody have we're not getting rich off of everybody's stretch, but there is a little bit of a fundraiser piece to it. But the real win is having people from all over the country that come here, and once they get eyes on it, they realize this truly is unique training. This is something that's different from most of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah. So when is this symposium for you guys?
The symposium, the 2-day portion of it is September 26th and 27th. Day one is all classroom. I have a lot of good instructors coming in. We're doing a workshop on canine med. We have the clinical manager for the Purdue School of Veterinary Medicine coming in to do canine. One of our educators is going to do a 2-hour workshop on how to make your own moulage and how to do it cheaply. So that's kind of what, as you get into training and how to go about it. Making your own moulage is fantastic because it'll break the bank. So we got one team that's coming in. It's a small town team, but with some of the sprawl, it's starting to face some big city issues, and they do a great presentation on their first gunfight, like the first shootout these guys were actually in, and it's a very humble presentation of, we didn't know what we didn't know, and it did nothing happened the way we thought it was going to. And so so that's day one. Day two is all hands-on. We've got 30 to 50 role players that are high school students that are coming in. So we'll do hostile MCI training in the morning, and then in the afternoon we have some canine stuff. We have EODs coming. How do you get out of their bomb suits? We've got one of the things that we've been working on that we're pretty excited about is using drones for remote assessment. So we're flying a drone in, and we're doing kind of deploying certain tactics to say, is this exigent? We see someone down on the floor, and basically, using assessment tools to say, okay, are we rushing into a gunfight to rescue someone who's unsalvageable? Or is this emergent? We need to get in there now because this person looks bad. So there's a lot of really good classes that we're doing. And it's not just for tactical medicine. It's a lot for what you were asking about. How do you start a team? If you do have a team, how do you take it to that next level? That's where we're at, and we seem to be fairly successful with it.
How can someone find more information about this symposium?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's ballisticmed.com, and that'll take you to our Eventbrite page. And then you guys pushed out something a while back as well.
Yes.
The tickets. This is not my salesman. This is not my salesman spiel. It's the truth. Tickets are going fast. We probably have a handful of tickets left, but we want to get people from all over the country. We got a guy coming from like just north of New Orleans, Lexington, Kentucky. We've got people from around the area. So we've got some spaces left, and we'd like to see you there.
Well, that's great. Sounds like a wonderful opportunity. So I wanted to thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. I know that prepping for something like this, along with, all the other duty hats that you wear, keep you running around quite a bit. So we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, be safe out there. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.